Irish Guy, and today is the 19th of July, the date the Ice Age ended. This is a pivotal moment because your Premier League club is about to do something incredibly stupid. But don't worry, because this video will forever be immortalized in stone as a moment where I bravely showed the wisdom of Gandalf the Grey and just tell you all, don't do it. The opposite of Nike. This is my warning to all of you, because each Premier League club is on the verge, on the precipice of doing something in this transfer window, which is just the height of stupidity. So instead of everybody being Captain Hindsight in March, this is me in real time telling you, don't do it! This is my warning. So let's take a look at what every club is about to do that they will 100% regret. Right, let's go. Oh, by the way, as if you're wondering, yes, this is a Nottingham Forest goalkeeping kit. How delightfully random. But anyway, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. That's all there really is to it, really. Just subscribe, you utter legends. Back into the video. Arsenal selling Folarin Balogun. You know those moments in the past where people look back on and wish they could reverse their decision? Like, for example, I would like to go back to April 2015 and choose not to eat that poison lasagna made by my mum. I mean, in football terms, Chelsea fans would give anything to go back 10 years and just chain Kevin De Bruyne to the Stamford Bridge sink. I mean, just keep him there. Feed him prawn crackers and toast. Take the kidnapping fine on the chin, but just don't let him leave. And similarly, if Arsenal actually let Folarin Balogun sign for Inter Milan after a 22-goal season with Reims in League One, they will massively regret it. He is a 22-year-old striker who's played in the Premier League twice. Considering he's been at the Emirates since 2008, there's something weird has gone wrong. He's got a 1-2 goal record for the USA at international level. Inter Milan have literally decided that he's their plan B to Lukaku. You know, the most expensive footballer in the history of the sport. If Mikel Arteta actually chooses to dump Balogun in Italy and just persists with Eddie Nketiah, somebody who would probably eat bird poo off a knife to grow up to have the career of Danny Ings, it would be a huge monster mistake. I'm not saying that Inter Milan interest automatically makes you a world beater. Christ, well, they once tried to buy Tom Ince, but still, if Arsenal sell him, they will regret it. Aston Villa buying Moussa Diaby. Right now, we have got Aston Villa going head to head, trying to outbid a Saudi team for Moussa Diaby. If there's one team you don't want to get into a bidding war with, it's a football club where the chairman is probably as rich as a king. Honestly, I'd imagine a board meeting Al Nasser probably looks like a scene from Game of Thrones. It looks like Aston Villa are going to sign Moussa Diaby, a 24-year-old international winger at Bayer Leverkusen, who Newcastle were obsessed with last year. Yeah, they're gonna have to pay upwards of £50 million. £50 million for another Leon Bailey. You know, the last superstar winger you bought from Bayer Leverkusen? Bailey at Villa has had his moments, yes, but he was a 15-goal-a-season start in Germany too. At Villa Park, 5 Premier League goals. He's got the end product of a magpie's belly button. Paying big to have both Diaby and Bailey on the wings. They're basically trying to create that Leverkusen team. What next? A bid for Demarai Gray in January to just turn up and make the tea? Diaby is a PSG reject, yes, but he is a quality player. But it just feels like Villa have already made this transfer before. It's been like going back to the same pizza shop who 2 years ago served you a margarita that tasted like the armpit of the Hulk. £50 million, just let him go to Saudi. Or just go get Harvey Barnes instead. Bournemouth loaning out Roman Fab. Okay, this has actually already happened this week, but Bournemouth, you still have a chance to cancel this loan deal. Bournemouth are a club who should always be living in the moment. No, don't plan for what you're going to do in the Premier League in 2024. No, it's like a 97-year-old woman planning a summer holiday 2 years down the line. No! Just go to Jamaica now, because in 2 years you could well be a skeleton in a box. Lads, remember when Roman Favre was an absolute French wonderkid midfielder at Brest and linked with Man United and PSG? Yeah, he then gets a €50 million move to Lyon, and now it's just jumped to Bournemouth for the same price tag. What they've gone and done is loaned him out to Lorient to play with Benjamin Mendy and weirdly, a midfielder called Innocent. Yeah, I bet the left back's gonna become busy mates with him on Instagram. I don't get it. Does Andoni Areola not think that an utter baller like Favre would be useful to him now? This isn't a 17-year-old little boy who needs toughening up out on loan. Nah, he's just turned 24. I also don't want to sound like a superstitious witch, but he was also born 2 days after France won the World Cup. When Zidane scored in the final. Not Mbappe. Christ above, he's not Schofield's boyfriend. Brentford buying Brennan Johnson. Brentford are obsessed with Brennan Johnson. Thomas Frank has it in his bonnet now. It's nagging at him. He has wanted this Welsh winger for a long time. But Nottingham Forest are demanding £50 million. Don't do it. Just don't. A team like Brentford paying half of a £100 million fee for a 22-year-old with 8 Premier League goals in his life. Someone who 2 years ago was scoring for Lincoln in League One. He's a good player, yes, but 50 million? No. Brighton rejecting monster bids for Caicedo. Don't price Caicedo out of a move. Brighton have just turned down a £70 million bid from Chelsea for this guy. If I was a Brighton fan, I would worry a little, because after this man begged to leave on Instagram in January, if you now price him out of a transfer this summer, then suddenly you've got a sulking, bratish Caicedo underperforming all season at a place where he doesn't want to be, before you then have to sell for half the asking price. Honestly, if Chelsea come in for an £80 million bid now, just swallow your pride and sell. Burnley signing Nathan Redmond. Okay, this transfer could go through any second now, but yes, Burnley are about to sign Nathan Redmond from Besiktas on a free. And just like that, I would imagine that Burnley fans just let out a bored sigh. As if you've just been told by your mum to mow the lawn in your underpants. Lads, I've been championing this Vincent Company project, telling everyone with a pulse that this is a new Burnley. Suddenly, they're pretty to watch. They are signing a completely different caliber of exciting footballer now. Not just a typical sweaty aging man who stinks of beer and pudding, but Redmond is such a Burnley of the past vibe. This is like watching a recovering alcoholic sitting in the toilets of AA, sneaking a can of Guinness out of his shoe. What makes this even more depressing is that despite relegation, Southampton and Burnley have almost swapped players. I know Redmond was recently in Turkey, but we all know him best for just being an average muffin who spent 7 seasons at Southampton. While Nathan Tella was Burnley's best player last season, 19 goals from the wing. But what's so unfair is that he is still trapped in the Championship because he's just gone back to the Saints after the end of his loan deal, and Company has just signed boring old Redmond instead. This just reminds me of when Everton signed Andros Townsend on a free. It was about as ambitious as letting a toddler cut your hair. 5 goals at Besiktas last year. Oh, this is grim. Chelsea selling Levi Colwill. Okay, I don't actually think Chelsea will do this now. I really don't. I mean, Wesley Fofana absolutely crushing his knee like a fat bumblebee. Surely that means that there's no way Levi Colwill will be allowed to leave. You know, the 20-year-old promising centre-back who just lifted the Euros with England under 21s. But knowing Chelsea, I wouldn't be surprised to see them cash in at the last minute, selling him for £40 million to something like Brighton or Liverpool. I mean, this is a club who let Fikayo Tomori walk out the door to AC Milan, and he was in the Chelsea first team picture. Colwill has never represented the Chelsea first team in his life, so I just think if somebody waves a fat paycheck in Todd Bowley's face for a defender who's played for the club as much as Tinker Bell, I would not be shocked to see them sell, which again, like losing Tomori, would be monumentally stupid. Crystal Palace trying to sign Mateus Franca. Right now, Crystal Palace need to buy players. Yeah, right now they just offered Flamengo money for Mateus Franca, a 19-year-old Brazil under 20 international baller who was born on April Fool's Day in 2004. I mean, I guess his entire existence was just a prank, but he is one of the latest South American wonder kids and has been linked with big money projects like Newcastle and Chelsea. So why are Palace getting involved? If this deal were to come off, it would look about as weird as when Swansea won the race for Renato Sanchez. That was more bizarre than looking at a hippo dancing with a squirrel. Palace, you're not going to win this race for Franca. He's going to sign for a Champions League club, not just become teammates with Will Hughes. Can you imagine trying to win the race for an elite teen superstar when you've got Roy Hodgson at the wheel? Someone who looks like if you melted Voldemort. This is like when West Ham tried to sign Neymar in 2010. This would be like Fogdad asking Rihanna for her number. Sorry Palace, but you're just wasting your time. Everton signing Kelechi Iheanacho. Apparently Everton is sniffing around Leicester City and wanting to tie up a £10 million deal for Kelechi Iheanacho. Lads, there was once a time where I thought that this guy was the next superstar. I mean, he was the original Gabriel Jesus, a Manchester City superstar in his teens. Never forget, this man scored 14 goals for Man City in his debut season at 18. That was utterly monstrous. I mean, that City spell promised so much. I mean, Christ above, promise is his middle name, but he's also one of the most inconsistent forwards I've ever seen in my life. 2 years ago, he had a 19-goal season at Leicester City, but the last 2 seasons, 4 Premier League goals and 5 Premier League goals. I mean, lads, he had 1 season for Leicester City where he scored 1 goal all season long. Not sure how he survived the chop after that. So yeah, Everton buying a 26-year-old Iheanacho. All the talent in the world, yes, but one of the most frustrating strikers I've ever witnessed in my life. And after Neil Maupay and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the last thing Everton need is another frustrating striker. Fulham selling Alexander Mitrovic. Look, I don't actually think that Fulham will cave in and sell Alexander Mitrovic to Al Hilal in Saudi, but just make sure that you don't, alright? Nothing much more to say here. Liverpool selling Luis Diaz. Where did this one come from? Right now, Saudi clubs are all over Liverpool. Like an outbreak of chicken pox, Al Hilal are like an annoying mosquito, buzzing around virtually every Premier League club. I mean, except Luton Town, I don't think anyone really wants anything from Luton. In the same way, you're not going to find a billionaire lucky to buy chicken wings at Lidl. But yeah, apparently Allan's interest in Luis Diaz is very real. And if I were a Liverpool fan, I'd be scared. Because Jurgen Klopp does not stand in any player's way if they want to leave. I mean, he's waving goodbye to Jordan Henderson and Fabinho without a fuss. But you have to be strong, because if Diaz has his head turned by huge monster cash, then lads, Liverpool did not go to all that effort of stealing this guy from under the nose of Tottenham just to then mail him to a desert where Graham Norton is illegal. Is Diaz's Liverpool spell really just going to be limited to just 2 4-goal seasons? That just makes the Colombian look like a soggy wet flop. But he's not. He's a superb winger who's just about to finally cook. I don't care if he does get tempted by a Santa sack filled with cash. Klopp needs to say no, because selling him now would be a disgrace. Luton Town doing nothing. So you've signed Chidozie Agbeni. You've brought in Tahith Chong. Come on, Luton. Sign somebody else. Man City selling Kyle Walker. Pep Guardiola is a bit like Klopp in that he's too proud to actually have to convince and beg a player to stay. Lads, sometimes you need that in management. Instead of just saying, oh, well, if you want to leave, then just go. But lads, hanging on to players who want to leave. That's how Brendan Rodgers nearly won Liverpool the Premier League. I mean, if he'd done a Klopp or a Pep, he'd have, what, just kissed Luis Suarez goodbye as he pulled on an Arsenal shirt? Lads, mixing Suarez in with Ozil and Cazorla. Oh, he would have definitely won in the Premier League that year. And similarly, Kyle Walker is intrigued by the idea of Bayern Munich. But don't let him go. Not only is Walker a monster leader in the City dressing room, but he's still a superb world-class right back at 33 and integral to the way Pep plays. I honestly think that just letting him quit for Germany, losing a leader like him, one of the biggest voices in the dressing room, even if he does sound like a squeaky Mickey Mouse, honestly, imagine listening to a conversation between Walker and David Beckham. It'd be like watching a Bugs Bunny cartoon. But yeah, selling Walker, big mistake. Man United giving Jonny Evans a longer contract. So, Man United have given Jonny Evans a very vague short-term contract to keep up his fitness and play preseason games as he looks for a new club. Fine, okay, that makes sense. Instead of letting a former academy player just rot away sitting on the couch munching hot dogs just playing Fortnite with his kids, they've allowed him to go on a preseason tour so he can maybe get a 2-year deal at Preston North End. Great. But if Man United fall into the trap of offering him a permanent deal, then that's just all sorts of weird. I get this club like to look after their former academy players, but this will still mean that in the last 2 years, Manchester United would have given contracts to Tom Heaton, Paul McShane, Jonny Evans, Tom Huddlestone and Benny McCarthy. A crop of players pulled straight out of the Premier League from 2007. Evans is an injury-hit lump off the back of a Leicester City relegation where he's earning £100,000 a week, and before that he was relegated at West Brom while stealing a taxi. And to make matters worse, it was only a few years ago that this former Manchester United centre-back was begging for a move to Man City. I don't know. Instead of sitting back and watching Aston Villa buy Pau Torres, only for you to just bring Evans through the door, it smacks of unambition. Plus, you think this club are now allergic to signing Leicester City centre-halves. Newcastle selling Allan Saint-Maximin. This is an absolute disgrace. Newcastle United are actually officially selling Allan Saint-Maximin to Saudi so they can fund the move for Harvey Barnes. Eddie Howe has actually admitted it. Barnes is a decent player, but he is about as boring as a vegetable pie. Born and bred in Burnley, been at Leicester since 2007, went out on loan to MK Dons, Barnsley and West Brom, and hasn't played for England in 3 years. Even his name is dull. He's fine. He's okay. But we've seen 1,000 Barnes before. I mean, he's Harvey Barnes, not John. Saint-Maximins are rare. Even his name is rare. He sounds like a pope. This is a bloke who's got Eden Hazard skill. He is the best one-on-one dribbler in the Premier League. He's got better footwork, better close control than even a young Cristiano Ronaldo. He is the second coming of Hatem Ben Arfa, and Newcastle are choosing to sell? Teams like Newcastle need to create a spark in the Champions League. Something that's not so regimented and organised. Just a huge bundle of creative energy that you can unleash against Bayern Munich away. Instead of relying on wingers who spent last season in relegation scraps, lads, Saint-Maximin is Champions League level. Don't forget, he absolutely tore Man City apart a year ago, chipping in with 2 assists in a 3-3 draw. Lads, Newcastle literally lost 2-0 at home to Liverpool, and yet Maxi was still given man of the match. He also completely ripped Man United to shreds in that 2-0 win in April. He raises his game against the big teams because he belongs in their presence. He is Champions League worthy. So to see him go to Saudi at 26, it's a complete and utter disgrace, and replacing him with boring old Harvey Barnes, it's like finding out that it was nearly Steve Carell, not Heath Ledger, who nearly played the Joker in The Dark Knight. Wow, that would have been grim. Nottingham Forest signing nobody. Pretty simple. Sign someone. What are you waiting for? Aside from showing a feeble interest in Willian, what have Forest really done? You can tell they're still probably insecure and embarrassed from everybody making jokes when they bought 30 blokes last year, but doing the opposite and going cold turkey? No! Sheffield United selling Ilman Ndiaye. Okay, right now it does look like Sheffield United's attacking midfield superstar Ilman Ndiaye might actually be staying with the Blades. Well, I mean, after a 15-goal season last year, I'd be worried that the club are even considering letting him go. But Marseille want him, and I would worry because there is something about not Mary, Marseille, because they just stick in the DNA of everybody who ever played for them. I mean, they're like the island of Lost. They're just a huge magnet for everybody who leaves, just constantly trying to tempt them back. And NDA spent 4 years at Marseille, from the age of 10 until 14. Lads, we've seen Dimitri Payet go back to Marseille. Florian Thauvin crawl back to the Stade Velodrome after initially quitting them for Newcastle. I remember Didier Drogba was devastated he had to leave them for Chelsea, and he was always rumoured to go back. Honestly, he was always linked to the return to Marseille every single year he was at Chelsea. Marseille always seem to infect their players with some homesick gene when they leave. So yeah, if NDA does want to go back and the Blades agree to sell, oh, it would be terrible. Tottenham selling Harry Kane. Oh, well, this is just obvious. Stop press. Tottenham choosing to sell Harry Kane to Bayern Munich is bad news. Would actually be a complete disaster for Ange Postecoglou, because for the first time in 10 years, the club would actually have to go into the market and buy a first choice striker, which would be like a divorced mum of 5 suddenly having to download Tinder on her phone. She'd be so nervous, she'd probably get sick on her plate of chips. West Ham buying João Palhinha. I know West Ham are desperate to replace Declan Rice, but I promise you, you are barking up the wrong tree. You've targeted the wrong guy, because apparently they just had a £40 million bid rejected by Fulham for João Palhinha. I promise you, West Ham, you are wasting your time, because all the noise coming out of Craven Cottage is that they have slapped a £90 million price tag on their Portuguese midfielder, and Fulham know that West Ham have £105 million in their pocket. They're going to want as much of that paycheck as possible, so either West Ham waste the next month seeing multiple bids turned down, or they wind up spending 90% of their rice pot of gold on a midfielder who turns 30 in 2 years. I mean, we remember Tottenham utterly wasting the £85 million that Real Madrid gave them for Gareth Bale. If the Hammers actually go and spend all that rice money on some bloke from Fulham, shame on you all. Wolves selling Max Kilman. As we speak, Max Kilman is next in line to be Wolves captain. I mean, surely, in the last few weeks, this is a club who permanently deleted the leaders in the dressing room, like Connor Cody, Ruben Neves, João Moutinho, even Adama Traore. Shocking the fact they've also sold their big money centre-back Nathan Collins too, and Wolves are suddenly short of centre-backs and voices in the dressing room. And yet Napoli are still buzzing around. Wolves have already turned down a £30 million bid for Kilman. That's good. Keep it that way. I mean, it would be strange to see a former Gillingham, Marlow and Welling United centre-back move to the champions of Italy. Although, to be fair, it's not that long ago that Napoli signed Axel Tanzebi. Clearly they're not fussy with centre-backs. But I'm going to say the same thing to Wolves that someone should have told the Grinch. Treat Max better. If he goes, you will suddenly have a defence about as feeble as wet cardboard. And your captain would be what? Craig Dawson? Anyway, that's what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think is the stupid move you're going to make? What do you want to stop from happening? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and as always, I will talk to you in a while.